chapter 10 of the book of Ezra, verse 1. And while Ezra was praying, and while he was confessing, weeping, and bowing down before the house of Elohim, a very large assembly, men and women and children, gathered unto him from Israel, for the people wept very bitterly. Well, important here, like I was mentioned, Ezra, just like Eleazar, represents Eliyahu, so does Ezra. In fact, Ezra and Eleazar have the same root. Obviously, Eleazar has two roots, El and Azar. Ezra, the root is Azar. My point is that I just explained how in the previous chapter, the names refer to the coming of the two witnesses, one being the witness like Moshe, Michael, and the other being Eliyahu. And we see how through the names of the previous chapter, he was referring to the coming of the last to gather the chosen few as the bride for Mashiach, or himself once he is joined to the first. Now we see here how when Ezra is praying, a large assembly gathers unto him, like the few and the many, for instance. So, well, it could be the many because of the large assembly, but because of the fact that it says men and women, I said few and many. So, and while Ezra was praying and while he was confessing, weeping, and bowing down before the house of Elohim, a very large assembly, men and women and children, gathered unto him from Israel, for the people wept very bitterly. And Shechaniah, son of Yehiel, one of the sons of Olam, spoke up and said to Ezra, we have trespassed against our Elohim and have taken foreign women from the peoples of the land. And now there is expectancy in Israel concerning this. So, as we know, Shechaniah means he who lives with Yah, or whose habitation is Yah. Also, we could say the habitation of Yah. And Shechaniah, son of Yehiel, one of the sons of Olam, spoke up and said to Ezra. Also interesting that it says here these three names. Verse 2, Shechaniah ben Yehiel, son of Olam. Olam is normally translated as eternity, also world. And Yehiel, the mighty one will live, or the mighty one lives. So just here in these three names, we see he who lives with Yah, or he who dwells with Yah, the mighty one who will live, the mighty one who lives, and well, the mighty one who will live, I say that because it begins with a yud, so we could see it as third person in the future. So he would represent when he comes, dies, and resurrects, just like he already did to Mashiach Yahushua the first. Also, we could say the habitation, meaning the body of Yah, he will live eternally. Olam. The life of the mighty one is for eternity for those who dwell with Yah. Anyways, I'll continue and then we'll see the names. So it says, and Shechaniah, son of Yehiel, one of the sons of Olam, spoke up and said to Ezra, we have trespassed against our Elohim, and we have taken foreign women from the peoples of the land. And now there is expectancy in Israel concerning this. Now then, let us make a covenant with our Elohim to put away all these wives and those who have been born to them, according to the counsel of Yahweh and of those who tremble at the command of our Elohim, and let it be done according to the Torah. Arise, for the matter is upon you, but we are with you. Be strong and act. And Ezra rose and made the leaders of the priests, the Levites, and all Israel to swear to do according to this word. And they swore. Then Ezra rose up from before the house of Elohim and went into the room of Yahuhanan, son of Eliashib, and he went there. Interesting to find the name Yahuhanan here. Let's see how exactly it is written here in Hebrew. Here it is, Yahuhanan, which would be the name, most likely, of the one known as John the Baptist, as well as that of the writer of the book of Revelation, and obviously the good news of Yahuhanan. Then Ezra rose up from before the house of Elohim and went into the room of Yahuhanan, son of Eliashib. Eliashib, the mighty one, he will return. Also, it's interesting, like I mentioned, Ezra represents Eliyahu, so does Yahuhanan the immerser. So it would be like saying Ezra came as Yahuhanan, and then he himself will return, as in 3 times of Eliyahu, and him, Yahuhanan, returning, but now as one of the 2 witnesses. But anyways, then Ezra rose up from before the house of Elohim and went into the room of Yahuhanan, son of Eliashib. And he went there. He ate no bread and drank no water, for he mourned because of the trespass of the exiles. That trespass of the exiles, of pretty much mingling with the women of the other nations, who would lead them to idolatry and other sins, represents how during the apostasy, during the past 2,000 years, because of the fact that Yahweh, because of our sins, dispersed us throughout the 4 corners of the earth, we would be raised as Gentiles, thought to be Gentiles, and given a doctrines of Gentiles. So we would be mixed with falsehood, meaning our teachings, while being raised. So now in the end times, the 2 witnesses appear, teach the true doctrine in order to separate those who really are from those who are not, as we see here that they are trying to do. So it says, and they passed a call throughout Yehudah and Jerusalem to all the sons of the exile to gather at Jerusalem. And that whoever would not come within 3 days, according to the counsel of the leaders and elders, all his goods would be put under a ban, and himself separated from the assembly of the exiles. Whoever would not come within 3 days, obviously connected with the 3 days that Mashiach was in the tomb, but also with the first 3.5 years during which the 2 witnesses preach, in order to separate the few from the many from the nations, the wicked from the righteous. Then all the men of Yehudah and Benjamin gathered at Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the 9th month, on the 20th of the month. It was the 9th month, on the 20th of the month. Remember that they write new moon, but that's an issue that I've mentioned many times regarding these translations that are not correct. Well, that one regarding the beginning of the month. I wanted to the 9th month on the 20th. So it'll be what normally is known as Kislev on the 20th, the 262. Well, you can see there's a star right there, and then you go to that day on the right, which is the 9th of Menashe. No, Benjamin, my bad. Look how it actually mentioned how Benjamin and Yehudah gathered. The 9th month is that of Benjamin. And on the 20th, we have Ezra 10:9. So, and that just to show, well, in a graphical way, when it happened during the year, but also how the dates are found on the calendar of those days in scriptures. Also, there's an English version on the site. I just opened the Spanish one, but just in case you guys want to download it. So, then all the men of Yehudah and Benjamin, which is the tribe of the 9th month. Then all the men of Yehudah and Benjamin gathered at Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the 9th month on the 20th of the month. The fact that it was the 20th right here, you see, is just 5 days before Hanukkah. In the time of Ezra, there was no Hanukkah, but we know this time to be a time of renewal or dedication because of what Yahweh did through the Maccabees. So it's interesting that they are gathering themselves on the 20th in order to pretty much dedicate themselves to Yahweh, make a dedication of themselves, not to mix themselves with other nations and idolatry and all of that. So they're getting ready on the 20th, right before the feast of Hanukkah. The 9th month is that of Sagittarius, which connects with the first seal, the rider of the white horse who comes with a bow and who is given a crown and goes conquering and to conquer. So in that month of Sagittarius, I'm not saying that that's when the first seal will be open. I'm saying that that month, because of the constellation in which the sun is during 30 days, represents the first seal. So the fact that they were doing this month of the rider of the horse with a bow, about to dedicate themselves to Yahweh, fits our time when the first seal will be open for the last to separate the few from the many and everything else that I said, in order to dedicate the chosen few as the true temple of Yahweh. So going back to Ezra. And all the people sat in the open space of the house of Elohim, trembling because of the matter and because of showers of rain. Because of the matter and because of showers of rain. As you guys could see right here, well, the last 3 months are the winter. So they were about to enter the winter. That connects with the fact that Mashiach said that the congregation should pray so that when the time comes to flee to the mountains, there is no, well, that it doesn't happen during the winter is how some translate it, but others referring to storm. I mean, the actual word that is there is referring to storm. So some connected only with the winter. As you can see here in the true calendar, we're approaching the winter, meaning if we were on the 20th of the 9th. But as we know, it'll be worldwide, and winter is different depending on where each person is. So as well, the showers of rain represent blessing. If we're talking about Yahushua being the water of life, the first being the morning rain, the early rain, and the last being the latter rain. Also represents revelation. And if we connect it in the negative sense, of course, it connects with the flood, the judgment. And we know that the coming of the Son of Man will be like the days of Noah. So it also fits that. So, and all the people sat in the open space of the house of Elohim, trembling because of the matter and because of showers of rain. And Ezra, the priest, stood up and said to them, you have trespassed and have taken foreign women, adding to the guilt of Israel. So this is interesting because they were trembling because of the matter, meaning they were in fear but also because of the showers of rain. They were cold. They were in the open part of the temple, which represents the nations. The temple itself represents the many, and the most set apart place represents the few. So in a way, Ezra as Eliyahu is gathering everybody from the nations in order to be able to choose who is Israel and who's not, who are the many and who are the few from the nations. Not only that, remember that the two witnesses have the power to stop the rain. And like I mentioned in the previous chapter with the meanings of the names, the last, he comes to give terror through the plagues to the wicked and fear to the chosen few, the true fear of Yahweh, which leads to wisdom. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of Yahweh. So they were trembling, the wicked, because they were about to get what is theirs as showers of rain, but in this case, in the end, of fire, and many other ways through the rain of plagues. While the few will be trembling because they are receiving the true fear through the showers of rain, through the teaching of the two witnesses. And Ezra the priest stood up and said to them, you have trespassed, just like the two witnesses must tell the world about their trespasses. Yet the world will hate them because of that. The world doesn't want to hear that they have been wrong, that they are wrong, that they have to change, etc. They want to hear that they are perfect, that everything will be fine, that they're doing better than they should or whatever. I mean, the churches of nowadays where they just touch the emotions of people in order to bring them back next Sunday and give whatever money they can. But Ezra, as the two witnesses he's not worried about what they will think. He's not worried about, oh, they will be offended. He's worried about if Yahweh is being offended. That's why the last, as we saw previously, is the zeal of Yahweh. He will be jealous in the sense of he will get angry because of the fact that the people of Yahweh are going after idols, are going after false Elohim. So the last will be jealous for Yahweh, for his name is jealous. Exodus 34:14. And Ezra the priest stood up and said to them, you have trespassed and have taken foreign women, representing, and have become false congregations. Women are congregations, foreign, pretty much foreign doctrines of demons that have been believed by those who belong to these congregations. So a person, individual, is a head. When that person unites with a false congregation that has foreign doctrines, it is like a man of Israel uniting, taking foreign women. So, and Ezra the priest stood up and said to them, you have trespassed and taken foreign women, adding to the guilt of Israel. This is interesting because we could say when Mashiach, and I say like this because of the belief in Christianity regarding the separation between Israel and the church, as they say. As we know, the congregation is one. It's one and the same. Yahweh simply told us about a spiritual congregation, and before Mashiach came, it was only understood as a physical congregation, but it has always been a spiritual one. The true Israel is a spiritual one, that which accepts Mashiach as sovereign. That is the true Israel, and always has been. But I say that because Mashiach came and he said for the lost tribes of Israel. But when he leaves, he tells the apostles to go to the nations because Israel rejected the doctrine, which is all prophesied. It had to happen for the good news to go to the nations as well, as he also prophesied. So right after Mashiach came and died, Yahweh started dealing with the nations. And through that time, those who claim to believe in Mashiach, they took foreign doctrines, making an apostasy. So the congregation, which they call the church, added to the guilt of Israel that came before them. So in a way, we could see this verse as something referring to our time and how the church, meaning the many, would trespass and even add to the guilt that Israel already had during the first 4,000 years before Mashiach came. And now make confession to Yahweh Elohim of your fathers and do his desire. This is important. Make confession to Yahweh Elohim of your fathers. Obviously, in the most simple interpretation of it, make confession of your sins. Recognize your errors. Leave them behind. Repent. But as we know, Hebrews 13:15 says that the sacrifice of praise is the fruit of our lips, the fruit of the lips that confess his name. And it is written in Romans 10 that justification, righteousness comes through the believing one's heart, while salvation comes through confession. In the simple sense, confession of your sins will save you of them. But obviously, who will save you? Yahweh through Yahushua. That is why Romans is clear regarding the importance of confessing the name of Yahushua as the Savior, as the sovereign, in order for salvation to take effect. So, and now make confession to Yahweh Elohim of your fathers and do his desire and separate yourselves from the peoples of the land and from the foreign women. Separate yourselves from the peoples of the land and from the foreign women. For we are a separate nation, set apart through his Ruach, through his law, the true law, that of the Spirit. Separate yourselves from the people of the land and from foreign women, as we must separate from falsehood, false doctrines, and even from people who are of the land, meaning people who are of the flesh, for the flesh was made from the soil. We are of the heavens. Even if we are on earth, for we were sent by the Father, and by accepting Mashiach, that shows that we are not of this world, for this world rejected him. And all the assembly answered and said with a loud voice, right, it is upon us to do according to your word. Right, it is upon us to do according to your word. But the people are many, and it is the season of showers of rain, and we are not able to stand outside. And the work not of 1 or 2 days, for we have greatly transgressed in this matter. Please let the leaders of all the assembly stand, and let all those in our cities who have taken foreign women come in at appointed times, together with the elders and judges of their cities, until the burning wrath of our Elohim is turned away from us in this matter. Look how it says the burning wrath, referring to the end times when the consuming fire would manifest to bring judgment. So please let the leaders of all the assembly stand, and let all those in our cities who have taken foreign women come at appointed times, together with the elders and judges of their cities, until the burning wrath of our Elohim is turned away from us in this matter. Only Jonathan, son of Asael, and Yazeah, son of Tikvah, opposed this, and Meshulam and Shabbatai, the Levite, gave them support. So that is in verse 15. Well, the name there, Jonathan, means he will give, or he has given. Asael means what Elohim has made, the work of Elohim. Yahaziah, or no, yeah, Yahaziah. Although I think that name, the way it's written here, should have a ched instead of a hey. So I'll check in scriptures in a moment. But the meaning, Yahweh sees. Then Tikva is hope. Meshulam is friend. Shabbatai is my rest, my Shabbat. And Levite, joined to or crown. So with that said, on verse 15, and I'm just seeing these names separate because of the fact that they were rebellious. And he who was given as the work of Elohim is who is seen by Yahweh, who has hope as a friend on the Shabbat to be joined to the crown. So, well, here we actually have positive meanings, all of them pretty much. So, well, I'll just look at the positive and then try and see if there's a way to see a negative, because I repeat, of the rebellious natures of these people. He who was given by Yahweh is who will do the work of the Mighty One as the watcher of Yahweh, who brings hope to those who are friends of Yahweh, or brings hope as a friend for the Shabbat when he's joined to the kingdom, to the crown. First and last become one. Now, if we were to see this in a negative sense, because of the rebellious nature of these people, I repeat, in this verse at least, we could say he will give the work of Elohim, who is a watcher of Yah. With that, we could say one of the watchers, one of the Malachim who fell, and who was a creation of the Most High, and also who will be used to finish his work. That's why he has been given. So he will give, or he has given, the work of Elohim, a watcher of Yah. But the hope of the friend, is to rest during the Shabbat within the kingdom, the crown, being joined to the crown. So yeah, pretty much once we get hope, everything gets positive. So the only way of seeing the negative will be because of Yasaya. Let me go and see what I mentioned regarding this name. 15, verse 15. Ach Yonatan ben Asael. Yeah, it's a chet, so Yachazia. And interestingly enough, this same verb that we see here is the root of Shem Chaza. Shem Chaza means he who sees the name. He was the leader of the watchers. He who sees the name, this would mean he will see Yah, or he who was seen by Yah. And because of the seen, that's why we could say the watcher of Yah. Interestingly enough, Azael by sounds very much like Azael, who fell with Shem Chaza, right? Who became Azazel. But Azazel is with a Zain like this one, instead of with a Shin. But the closeness to the pronunciation also is important. Therefore, it's interesting that we would have two names here that would represent the two main watchers that fell in the time of Noah, Azael and Shemachasa. And they were given permission to disobey. What I mean by that is the permissible will of Yahweh. Yahweh allowed them to fall to the earth and beget children who became giants. And I mentioned all of that just because of these two names. But then we have Tikva, which is hope. Just like Yahweh gave the two watchers to the fire, to prison. And that brought hope to the world. But anyways, I'll continue. We're on verse 15. Only Jonathan, son of Asael, and Yahziah, son of Tikva, opposed this, and Meshulam and Shabbatai, the Levite, gave them support. Then the sons of the exile did so, and Ezra, the priest, with certain heads of the fathers' houses, were separated by the fathers' houses, each of them by name, and they sat down on the first day of the 10th month to examine the matter. And they sat down on the first day. So I'll repeat this verse. Then the sons of the exile did so, and Ezra the priest with certain heads of the fathers' houses were separated by the fathers' houses, each of them by name. And they sat down on the first day of the 10th month to examine the matter. And as you guys can see here, the first day of the 10th month is the last day of Hanukkah. And look how they actually sat down to finish that matter on that day, just like it is the last day of Hanukkah, which means dedication. So they dedicated that day to actually dedicate themselves to Yahweh. And that is Tevet, the month of Dan or Levi, depending on how you want to see it, because Dan is taken out of the list in Revelation 7. That's why I added Levi as the other tribe. And we see that the ones doing that were the certain heads of the fathers, with Ezra the priest, therefore with the Levite. And Genesis 8:5. Let me go and read that. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on this day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. So that is the same day that the tops of the mountains were seen after the flood. That's why Yahweh through Noah left a commemoration on the first day of the first month, on the first day of the fourth month, on the first day of the seventh month, and on the first day of the 10th month. Because those 4 days were important when it comes to the flood. So here the tops of the mountains were seen. Let me see if I can look at that in Hebrew real quick. It says the tops of the mountains were seen in Hebrew, and were seen the heads of the mountains, Rashi Haharim, the heads of the mountains. And in this verse, we just saw the heads of the fathers' houses, right? Verse 16. Anashim Rashi Habot, the heads of the fathers. Heads of the fathers on that day gathered, just like on that same day, the heads of the mountains were seen. The heads of the mountains were seen after the flood when Yahweh was separating the wicked and the righteous. Right here, they are doing something similar by separating the wicked from the righteous. And that's why the heads gathered that same day, I repeat. So then the sons of the exile did so, and Ezra the priest with certain heads of the fathers' houses were separated by the fathers' houses, each of them by name, and they sat down the first day of the 10th month to examine the matter. And they finished with all the men who had taken foreign women by the first day of the first month. So they did that for 3 full months, because they began right here on the first of the 10th, and they did it throughout all the winter. So it took 3 months, the months of the winter, for them to finish. And they finished on the first day of the first month, which is another day of commemoration, as I mentioned, regarding the flood. And you can see here Ezra 10:17. And as we know, many things point to that day being the birth of Mashiach. So it's interesting that they finished on that day, which is the day in which Mashiach would come to the earth to separate us from sin, from falsehood, because Yahushua is the truth. Before him, there was no truth in the world, only the law and the prophets, and therefore wasn't understood, for the truth was not on earth. So when Mashiach came, he brought truth to separate the falsehood that was taught by those who claim to believe in the Most High, or who claim to have the Torah. So, and they finished with all the men who had taken foreign women by the first day of the first month. They completed that, just like they built the Mishkan on that same day. Just like the Mishkan, the body of Mashiach, was born on that day. And among the sons of the priests who had taken foreign women were found of the sons of Yeshua, son of Yotzadak, and his brothers, Maaseiah, and Eliezer, and Yarib, and Gedaliah. These names are interesting, and interesting to find Yeshua, which is the version written of this, well, the name of this person, of course, but this person in Zechariah is called Yahushua. So this person is given the name Yahushua in the book of Zechariah to represent Mashiach, who was born on the first day of the first month. So how interesting that we get to this moment in which they finished on the first day of the first month, and then the first person that appears is the one who is called Yahushua in the book of Zechariah, who brings the righteousness of Yahweh through his death to finish the work of Yahweh, as he said, it is finished, in order to give us help from the mighty one in the middle of the contention of the world, the apostasy. So I know we will see the names, but I just find it interesting how the name Yeshua appeared right away after mentioning the first day and the first month. And well, Gedaliah comes from Gadol, which is Yahweh is great. Yahweh is Gadol, as in Mashiach, who came as the Kohen Gadol, or the last who comes as the Melech Gadol, to contend with the mighty one of this world, next to Eliyahu, to finish the work of Yahweh through his righteousness, teaching salvation. So, and among the songs of the priests who had taken foreign women were found of the sons of Yeshua, son of Yotzadak, and his brothers, Maaseiah, Eliezer, and Yarib, and Gedaliah. Maaseiah, Eliezer, Yarib, and Gedaliah. Look how there are four, like the four corners of the earth where Israel was dispersed. Just like here, it is mentioning people who mingle themselves with foreign nations. Well, foreign women, through them with foreign nations. Also, it will be the work of Yahweh who would take us everywhere. It will be because of his will obviously because of our sins. But wherever we would be, he would help us. Still, we would find adversaries, contention. But Yah is great. And I say that regarding Yarib because of the fact that we will be hated because of his name till the end, when we will finally, well, we all know, but at that moment, those who don't will finally see clearly how great Yahweh is. And they gave their hand in pledge to put away their wives. And being guilty, they presented a ram of the flock for their guilt. That most likely being an Asham. Verse 19 says here, Eil son al Ashamatam. Yeah, Asham. Because of their guilt. They made an Asham offering, a ram from the flock. That's interesting because Ezra represents Eliyahu, and Eliyahu is represented by the ram sacrificed on Yom Kippur. Remember also that there was a ram given to Abraham so that he wouldn't sacrifice his son Yitzhak. Yitzhak represents Yahushua the first, the lamb. That's why Abraham said Yahweh will provide a lamb, but then he was given a ram because the lamb was Mashiach who would come later. But that shows that Yitzhak represents both Yahushua and Eliyahu, because Abraham gave his son like Yahweh gave his son Yahushua, and because Yahweh comes as the last, therefore the last is the father, and his son spiritually is Eliyahu. That's why he will give the ram in the end times to purify the many. So, and among the sons of the priests who had taken foreign women were found the sons of Yeshua, son of Yotzadak, and his brothers Maaseiah and Eliezer and Yarib and Gedaliah. And they gave their hand in pledge to put away their wives, and being guilty, they presented a ram of the flock for their guilt. And of the sons of Immer, Hanani, and Zebadiah. And of the sons of Harim, Maaseiah and Eliah, which is obviously the name of the other witness. So interesting to see it here with what I just mentioned and the fact that we will see the names in a moment. Of the sons of Harim, Maaseiah and Eliah and Shemaiah and Yehiel and Uzziah. And of the sons of Pashur, Elioenai, Maaseiah, Yishmael, Netanel, Yozabad, and Elazah. And of the Levites, Yozabad, Shimi, Kelaya, he is Kelita, Petachia, Yehuda, and Eliezer. And of the singers, Eliashib. And of the gatekeepers, Shalom, and Telem, and Uri. And of Israel, of the sons of Parosh, Ramiah, and Yiziah, and Malkiah, and Miyamin, and Elazar, and Malkiah, and Benaiah. And of the sons of Elam, Mataniah, Zechariah, and Yehiel, and Abdi, and Yeremot, and Eliah. And of the sons of Satu, Elioenai, Eliashib, Mataniah, and Yeremot, and Zabad, and Azizah. And of the sons of Bebai, Yahuhanan, Hananiah, Zabai, and Atlai. And of the sons of Bani, Meshulam, Maluch, and Adayah, Yashub, and Sheal, Ramot. And of the sons of Pahad Moab, Adna, and Kelal, Benaiah, Maaseiah, Mataniah, Betzalel, and Benui, and Menashe. And of the sons of Harim, Eliezer, Yishia, Malkiah, Shemaiah, Shimon, Binyamin, Maluch, and Shemariah. Of the sons of Hashum, Matenai, Matata, Zebad, Eliphelet, Yeremai, Menashe, and Shimi. Of the sons of Bani, Maadai, Amran, and Uel. Benaya, Bedeya, Keluhu, Wanya, Meremot, Eliashib, Matanya, Matenai, and Yazu, and Bani, and Binui, Shimi, and Shelemiah, and Natan, and Adaya, Nadebai, Shashai, Sharai, Azarel, and Shelemiyahu, Shemariah, Shalom, Amariah, and Yosef. Of the sons of Nebo, Yeiel, Matithia, Zabad, Zebina, Yadu, and Yoel, Benaiah. All these had taken foreign women, and some of them had women who had borne children. So not all have been given children through those women, so it wasn't as bad. But the fact that some had children with them meant that they had already mingled those nations, and therefore it was going to be harder to separate the falsehood from the truth that they received from the Father. So that's how the chapter ends.